By the end of this video, you will in autistic detail be very well acquainted with how you can spend $10.80 per day to greatly enhance your endocrine system, to truly maximize your male hormones and garner all of the affiliated benefits. This is one of the highest leverage things that you could ever do in your life as a man, and will greatly potentiate, facilitate, augment any endeavor that you happen to engage. What I've included here is just a breakdown of what we're going to be delving into throughout this presentation, which not least is going to be this overall framework and philosophy. I've got a really powerful analogy that I'd like to share with you before we delve into an analysis of a Walmart grocery run that I actually had filmed with a 360 camera for you last year. It was towards the tail end of the year, early November, I believe. And I'll be offering additional insights, nuances, and caveats to that as we watch that together, just so that you know exactly how to tailor it to your own set of circumstances. We'll be delving into this autistic cost calculation, which effectively will be to answer the question of, is this affordable? And then lastly, I've got an image that I'm really excited to share with you that I'd like to ingrain in your mind because of how powerful and influential I feel that it is. And now, if you're new to my channel and you've never seen my face before, my name is Jason, and I'm here to give you an unfair advantage to help you level up in this life. I'm here to reverse engineer the personal transformation that I underwent from 2015, as you see here, to 2024, becoming more masculine, getting the physique of my dreams, more confident, at ease with myself, just more effective in this life, no longer having to contend with the consequences of a disease that I was told was both incurable and something I would have to be medicated for from the cradle to the grave, namely eosinophilic esophagitis, which I was diagnosed with in 2009 as evidenced by an esophagogastroduodenoscopy, an EGD. That's an upper endoscopy, which I decided to pay out of pocket for as a follow-up towards the tail end of last year, just to show this reversal here of what a healthy esophagus entails, as opposed to a highly inflamed and diseased esophagus. So I'm happy to have you here, and I'm happy to reverse engineer this transformation so that it can catalyze the conversion that you want to undergo. So what I've included here is a really powerful analogy that I'm so grateful for, reconciles the situation that you and I are both in right now, which is the fact that we can draft our dream team. And this is not a zero-sum game. We live in a time where, amidst the myriad, seemingly ad infinitum landmines that you are amidst, when procuring your groceries, there are also these select all-stars, the Scottie Pippens of the world, the Larry Birds, the Magic Johnsons, the Charles Barkleys, certainly not least, the Michael Jordans. And you get to have them on your team. You can have Michael Jordan on your team. I can have Michael Jordan on my team. And we can have all of these infinite first draft picks. This isn't a schoolyard pick where every other pick goes to the other team. We have access to the best possible nutrition and, by extension, health that anybody on the surface of planet Earth has ever had the pleasure of experiencing. And I hope you take this idea very powerfully and realize that there are so many different diets that are Olympic level. But if you want the 1992 Dream Team that literally annihilated everyone that they opposed, including in the final, Croatia, in Barcelona, Spain, at the 1992 Olympics, having beat them 117-85 and having on average outscored their opponents by 43.8 points without calling a single timeout, I'm here to help introduce you to my food philosophy for how to do that. How to not just get past the tree line of the mountain, but to truly see the summit in all of its glory. So what I've included here is a grocery shop run, again, that I shot for you with my 360 cam. So let's go through this together so that I can offer you additional insights that's really going to help you have the rubber meet the road in your own life. This was recorded in Walmart because I want this to be as feasible, as accessible as possible. I really want to minimize the barriers to entry for you to gain access to the best human food possible. So we're at the perimeter of the grocery store, and here I'm grabbing some pomegranate juice. Some really important caveats that I'm going to issue here that I did not issue when I had initially recorded this in November 2023. And that should just be cognizant of the fact that pomegranate juice is very acidic. Things like acidity, certainly temperature, and UV exposure can greatly potentiate the leaching of the micro and nanoplastics inherent to the plastic packaging. And that's why I highly recommend procuring your pomegranate juice in glass. And a little bit later in this video, when we delve into the cost assessment, I'll be teaching you exactly how to do that as well. Pomegranate juice shouldn't be seen as the Michael Jordan, the A player all-star that's in the spotlight on your team, but more of an assist player who's there to provide an unparalleled source of antioxidants as the best defense yet to warding off, for example, cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, really debilitating chronic diseases that ended up in many people in those nursing homes with drool dribbling down their lip and chin. So this is the best way to effectively safeguard yourself from that into old age, to not just be healthy today or tomorrow, the following Friday, but rather for decades down the line. So here we are grabbing some beef. This is the true A player, the true all-star, the Michael Jordan of your team, in so far as the macro and micronutrients that is providing. Zinc, for example, is really integral to steroidogenesis. But if there's really only one food that you could have in your diet, and this is why the carnivore diet is incredibly effective, it would be beef. This is vastly superior to any of the poultry that you see positioned over here, which is going to have an abundance of linoleic acid. That's the parent omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acid, which if you are not clued in to this, you will inevitably be inundated with. Your body fat will have upwards of 20% of because of the refined, bleached, and deodorized oils that are seemingly omnipresent in the myriad processed packaged foods that line all of these aisles and certainly line your local grocery store of choice. These are the landmines that we need to sidestep, and we can most effectively do that by sticking to the perimeter of the grocery store. The next thing that I'm purchasing here is some beef liver. I see this as nature's multivitamin. I don't recommend going overboard with it. There's a really fine line here and balance that we need to strike. I recommend consuming enough beef liver per day to provide 1 milligram of highly bioavailable copper, because while I feel copper is underrated, you also don't want to be consuming it in excess because of its oxidative potential. And so what I would recommend doing is consuming about a 1/4 ounce of beef liver per day. I've got a future video that I'll be recording to show you exactly how to do that. But in essence, you're just taking a knife and you are prepping out 7-gram portions. You can think of this as just a tiny multivitamin that provides not just copper, but at least twofold the amount of vitamin B12 that you need per day. This is a really effective tactic that I highly recommend. And here what I'm grabbing are some eggs. Again, seeing this as the dream team that we want to draft into our life. How are these foods going to serve you? How are they going to transform you into the person who's having the experience that you want to have? These are free-range eggs, and those are going to be the best option if you can afford them because of the higher DHA content, docosahexaenoic acid, which is in fact the true essential omega-3 fatty acid, not linoleic acid like you've been told, like dietitians have been inundated, frankly indoctrinated with the notion of an erroneous one at that. DHA is very important, as is arachidonic acid, which is going to help facilitate your recovery. Eggs are also a really great source of choline, which is going to allow you to train with a great deal of volume and enthusiasm, intensity. It's really going to help you recover from hard workouts and build a better body. What I did there, by the way, was I was just checking for hairline cracks in the eggs and just trying to sidestep the carton of eggs that in this case happened to have one compromised egg. Again, I'm sticking to the perimeter of the grocery store and I'm just grabbing some milk here because that is the best full-fat dairy source from which all other dairy products are derived, such as cheeses and yogurts. I prefer full-fat milk, whole milk, if you can get it. And if you digest dairy, if you have lactase persistence, this is going to be largely genetically determined in terms of your dairy digesting ability. If you aren't able to get dairy into your diet, I would recommend the only form of a calcium supplement that is not, in fact, deleterious for human health, and that's going to be calcium citrate. Now, a lot of proponents, for example, of the carnivore diet would say that you get everything that you need and more, right, from red meat, from beef. And while I think that is the best food in isolation, if you could only pick one, you do want to also have these ancillary additions to your diet, and for select reasons. For example, for dairy, having a good source of calcium, which may not be an issue today or tomorrow if you're on the carnivore diet, not consuming dairy products, but over time, there will be a slow leaching effect from the repository of calcium in your body, which to a large extent is your bone tissue. Now, decades down the road, you don't want your bone mineral density to be compromised just because you were not consuming enough exogenously and by extension had to leach endogenous stores of calcium. Again, this will take decades potentially to show up, and it's something that you really want to be cognizant of and to safeguard yourself against by having an appropriate source of calcium, either by dairy products or a calcium citrate supplement. What I've done here is I have gone down the dreaded aisle to procure some basmati rice. This is not the Michael Jordan of your team. This is a really powerful assistant that is going to allow you to replenish your muscle glycogen and not introduce any unnecessary additives or frankly anti-nutrients, which is going to allow Michael Jordan, the beef, the full-fat dairy products to step into the light, into the glory, and offer you all of the benefits so that they can perform at their pinnacle of what they're capable of without having to compete with these anti-nutrients, which are going to bind a lot of the minerals in the beef, in the milk, and result in their inability to be assimilated by your body. So I'm a really huge proponent of basmati rice, not just because of the moderate glycemic index, not just because of the fact that it's effectively devoid of phytic acid, but also of arsenic, and also the fact that it doesn't have any fructose, which has to be metabolized by your liver and is incapable of replenishing muscle glycogen, but rather merely liver glycogen. So I'm a really huge proponent of starch, and this is going to be, frankly, a superpower, an unfair advantage relative to people who don't do this. The amount of volume that you will be capable of training with is insane. You're going to get better pumps in the gym. Your sleep is going to be better. Your cortisol is going to be lower. Your free testosterone is going to be higher by having, as a man, at least 150 grams of carbohydrates in your diet per day. So let's continue along here. And we are circulating the store. We are at the checkout now. And one quick thing that I just wanted to show you is a way to not have to contend with the consequences of the BPA, bisphenol A. It's a really potent endocrine disrupting chemical in the receipt paper. So you can see here, as I'm checking out at Walmart, there is actually an ability, a way to have a digital receipt sent to my phone, as opposed to having a physical receipt printed. Now, if for whatever reason you don't want to opt for that because you do have to have the Walmart app installed on your phone, then what you could do, for example, is just take your phone and credit card, and you could sort of sandwich the receipt in between those so that you're not directly coming into contact with the receipt. That would be an alternative that I would offer you. Again, if you don't want to use the digital method, which you just saw there. And as I'm walking out, I believe the Walmart worker was frankly just oblivious to my presence. So I did not have to flash the digital receipt at them. But again, that is the way that you would actually do that as you're exiting the store. And so what I've done here is I've included a screen recording that I just made earlier showing you the details of this transaction. So we can see here, this was November 3rd, 2023, again, the tail end of last year. And we can see the different pricing. $20.76 for 20 pounds of basmati rice, $4.19 for 1 gallon of whole milk. And I'm just going to play the screen recording here just to show you everything else that summarizes this purchase. So there was a second gallon of whole milk. There was $8.98 worth of pomegranate juice, the $4.82 eggs. You saw the beef liver, $19.32 for the ground beef. And I purchased 2 sets of that. So each comes in a pack of 3. So 6 pounds of ground beef was the totality of my purchase there. And what I've included here is just showing an overview based on a screenshot that I took within chronometer.com, showing what this diet consists of, the top 7 sources of human nutrition that I would effectively liken to the dream team, the 1992 USA basketball team. So what we've got is basmati rice, whole milk, ground beef, whole eggs, pomegranate juice. We've got some salmon as well as beef liver. Now you saw me purchase all of these during this video with the exception of the salmon. And I'm going to show you the separate way that you can buy that in addition to pomegranate juice in glass. So I'm going to pull up my browser here and just show you that if it's something that you would like to do. The salmon is a really powerful source of the actually essential omega-3 fat. It's really important for cognitive function. And by getting 200 grams of salmon into your diet per week, you can do, for example, 100 grams twice a week, maybe on a Monday and a Thursday, just separate it as much as you can. Or you can do what I do, and I'll make a future video about this showing my exact in detail process. I consume about 29 grams of salmon per day, and that's just based on the way that I portion it out. And that's going to provide me about an additional 200 milligrams of DHA per day with dinner each evening. And I feel that that is effectively the sweet spot. But what I wanted to show you here is wildforsalmon.com. When I'm living in the United States, this is the way that I have frozen wild caught salmon shipped directly to my front door in ice. They've got ice packs that they send it with, and this is vastly superior to any omega-3 supplement on the market, including brands like Carlson Labs, including ones that are apparently the creme de la creme. Those will have inherent alarming degrees of oxidation. So I highly recommend buying your salmon wild and frozen and to portion it out for yourself. But for the sake of the cost calculation, I wanted to show you what I would recommend, which is this Alaskan Keta salmon whole fillet. So for $15.28 per pound, we're going to click into this. And we can see that this is quite expensive at $152.80. But the calculation that we're going to be doing here is because we've got 10 pounds, we will convert 10 pounds to grams. And we can see that's 4,535.92 grams. And I'm just recommending that you consume about 29 grams per day, which would be about 200 grams per week. So we can see for $152.80, you're going to be getting a 156-day supply. So you can see how much more tenable and accessible that is, as opposed to what it may happen to look like on the surface. Now, the way that I get my pomegranate juice sent to me in glass is by way of Amazon. There's this company called Blue Ribbon. This is the exact product that I use. And for $54.99, again, I recognize that may not seem accessible. You're getting 6 liters. And what I do is I consume 125 milliliters with each of my 2 meals per day. So let's do the math on that. 6 liters is 6,000 milliliters. 125 mils twice a day is $2.50 per day, which means that this purchase would last me 24 days. And at $54.99, we can divide that by 24, meaning this will cost $2.29 per day. So those were just a couple of cost calculations for the wild caught salmon and pomegranate juice that I wanted to walk you through. But I wanted to also show you the autistic in detail calculation here that not only reconciles those two costs on average per day, but also all of the other purchases that you saw that I was able to get from Walmart. So let's walk through these here. So for the ground beef, we've got $19.32, which is the cost of 3 pounds. And I consume half a pound per day. So that will last me 6 days and results in a daily expense of $3.22. The pomegranate juice that we just calculated, we realized that $54.99 would last 24 days, which amounts to $2.29 spent per day. The eggs cost $4.82 for 1 dozen, and I consume 4 eggs per day, 2 with each meal. So 1 dozen is going to last 3 days, which means that 1 dozen, which costs $4.82, will cost $1.60 per day. Whole milk is $4.19 per gallon, and that will last me 3.5 days because I consume 2 gallons per week. So that comes out to $1.20 per day. We calculated the salmon earlier, which costs $15.28 per pound at 29 grams on average per day, lasting about 15.6 days, coming out to just under $1 per day. The basmati rice at $20.76 for 20 pounds is going to last me 22.7 days because I'm consuming a boatload, 400 grams measured dry, raw per day. So that comes out to 91 cents on average per day. And then we've got the beef liver that at $2.82 for 1 pound, which is about 454 grams. And I'm consuming 7 grams per day, will last over 2 months, almost 65 days. That comes out to under a nickel per day, the subtotal being $10.24 with 5.5% sale tax in the state of Maine, results in $10.80 per day. What better return on investment can you think of for $10.80 per day to completely recontextualize your experience of life by optimizing your endocrine system, fixing your physiology, getting truly dialed in? There is not a single aspect, a single second of your waking day that will not be improved by what you see before you right now. And what I would like to leave you with, my friend, is this image, which is truly a work of art. This is the most curated collection of foods, the top 9 foods that are going to help you go further and faster in this life than anything else. These foods that you see before you, really meditate on this, are going to completely recontextualize how you interface with this life. And they're going to help you become the man that you want to be, becoming more stoic, more grounded, at ease with yourself, effective in this life. Just becoming the fucking man, feeling good, and offering that energy to others, having a cup that runneth over. You know you want this for yourself, and this is where it starts. Not paying me as a pharmacist, not paying the pharmacy on the back end in an attempt to buy back your health, but rather putting food first, doing what Hippocrates said, and letting food be thy medicine. Paying the farmer on the front end for good health and access to the most optimal experience of life possible. That's it for today, my friend. I love you very much. Drop a comment down below, like and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, until next time, find your freedom. Peace.